Hi everyone, welcome to a new devlog. If you are new here, my name is Danny Marty and I'm developing a story-driven adventure game with some RPG ingredients. It's a mix of Last of Us and God of War, but with a level up system similar to Diablo, where you can upgrade your character and skills. In this episode, I have some exciting updates. For starters, I no longer use the ILS dummy for the player character. I have added a loot system for chests, a mini puzzle to add more variety to the gameplay, and a traversal movement system for tight spaces and balance to overcome gaps. So let's get started! Here you can see the new character in UE5. I made this character probably like 3 or 4 times, and I have been experimenting with different workflows. And this one it's kind of different because what I do is I use a metahuman as a base mesh for the character, so I can reuse the textures and the materials. And I think that the final result looks very good, as you can see here. This is a devlog and not a tutorial where I can go deep explaining step by step, but I would like to explain a little bit an overview of how I did this character, so you can use a similar workflow for your games. So for my character, I use Emory as a base character. I made some small changes here on the metahuman creator, but it's mostly the character by default. So once I was happy with my metahuman, I exported the model to UE5 with the Quixel bridge, and then I exported the mesh to Blender. I have to mention that metahumans use a lot of polygons and they are very complex and have a lot of bones. What I did is I imported the character in Blender and I used the level of detail 2. Because that has less polygons, and for my game I want to have something more performant. So once you have your character in Blender, what I do to adjust, for example, the face, it's I add the multi-resolution modifier, and then you can add any subdivisions you want. And using this method allows you to keep the UVs. So if we go to the UV editing, we can see here, let me remove the image on the UV editor. So here we have the UVs, and as you can see, we are seeing all the UVs overlapping, but that's because this character has a lot of materials. But if I disable the sync there and I just select the face. So here we can see the UVs for the face, and you can see like the UVs are very optimized using almost the whole area, and they are very flattened. So this is a very good UV. That's one of the advantages of butchering metahuman and using the model. So to edit the character, what I do is I add a multi-resolution modifier. Then I add any levels of subdivision I need. And then when you enter in the sculpt mode, you can make the modifications that you want. And well, let's say this is good for our character. Then I can go here in the shape option and apply base. What does it applies this modification to our current topology. So we can modify the shape of our mesh, but we keep our UVs intact. So this is great because then we can just apply the same materials that are in the metahumans in UE5. The problems of this workflow is when you import the metahuman in Blender, we lose all the rigging. We lose the rigging for the body and we lose the rigging for the face. So we don't have facial expressions anymore. The way I fix that, or I reveal that, it's I use Auto Rig Pro for the body. And for the head, I use the Face It add-on that allows me to create the different shape keys for the facial expressions. I will leave the links to both add-ons in the description if you want to take a look. Once in UE5, thanks to the blend shapes or the morph targets, how are they called in UE5, I can generate some facial expressions. Here you can see like he's blinking and sometimes gets like this angry face. And this is all done using blueprints. So if we open the skeletal mesh, we can see here all the morph targets that we can modify during runtime. If you don't see this window, it's just here. You can click window and then morph target previewer. So once in the blueprint, I can show you here how I did that. It's a little mess because I wanted to do a quick test, so it's not very organized. But here you can see I set a timer event with a custom event that it's called blinking, and this function it's called a random time between 0 and 10 seconds, and I check if it's blinking already. If it's blinking, then I don't do anything. If it's not blinking, then we run this little interpolation here, and you can see I get the mesh, then the anime instance, and then I set the morph target for the left eye and for the right eye. The value it's driven by the timeline here. So you can see here it's a half a second animation or interpolation and goes from 0 to 1 and then to 0 again. So this is the value of the morph target. So 0 means it's not influencing the mesh. 1 it's influencing the mesh 100%, and 0 again. So that closes and opens the eye. In a similar way, I do the angry face. The only thing with the angry face is because we have to modify more morph targets. I have here the custom event for set angry, and then same thing, I have a timeline, but then you can see here there are a lot of morph targets that are affected. So I have one for the eye squint left, eye squint right, the mouth right, and well, you can see there are a lot of different morph targets. This can look like a lot of work, but gives you a lot of control instead of just playing a traditional animation. So the last thing for the character is I added cloth simulation. So you can see here the fur on his back is moving. And I added some more cloth simulation on the hip area. So you can see like the shirt, it's moving a little bit, and like that gray drop that has in front, it's moving as well. So that makes the character a little bit more alive, and it makes the game look more professional. For the cloth simulation, I want to mention that I use a technique that uses a proxy. Here, I'm going to separate so you can see better. So this is our fur, and I use this proxy to simulate the cloth. The proxy is just a very simple mesh. You can see here. It has very few vertices, and I triangulate it because this is what Unreal wants. There are lots of tutorials on YouTube explaining the process of doing the cloth simulation, but only a few use this technique of the proxy, and this is actually the method recommended by Unreal Engine. Another feature I added in this update is the capability of the player to talk to us. I think that helps to get more attached to the character, because we know his personality, but at the same time, it's helpful because he can give us tips and introduce new mechanics.
It appears that all those torches are linked together. It would be great to activate the system that turns them on.
The voiceover right now it's done by AI using an app called Replica. I will leave the link in the description if you are interested. The idea is to use AI just for placeholders right now, so I can develop the game, but in the future I would like to hire an actor. On the other hand, I have added a loot system for chest. So now when we approach chest, we can interact.
Let's see what we got.
And then an object it's spawned in the interior and we can pick it up. And now it's in our inventory, so we can go to the inventory and equip it in our head in this case. And there it is. The system is very simple. It has a trigger, and when we approach and interact with the chest, it spawns an item from a library of objects. On the other hand, there is a little trick that I do to ensure that the character is always facing the chest properly. As you can see here, we are kind of sideways, but if I interact,
let's see what we
there is this transition of the camera that I use to hide the translation and rotation of the character to face properly the object, in this case the chest. Another feature that I added in this update and goes a little bit linked with the capability of the character to talk to us and introduce mechanics is the torch system. This torch system is just a mini puzzle. It's optional, but I think gives some more depth to the game and brings some diversity as well. So once the character interacts with the torch, as we saw previously, and introduces the mechanic, we can then explore the mine to look for that mechanism that it's gonna turn on all the lights.
Oh, nice. I can see things more clearly now.
This mini puzzle is optional, but rewards exploration because thanks to turning on all the lights, we have more visibility, and that will help us further down when we start to encounter some enemies. Another thing I added is a combination of traversal movement and another little puzzle that is heavily inspired by Last of Us. Here I'm going to show you so you can see where it comes from. It needs some refinement. As you could see, that beam has a weird interpolation, but I think the main mechanics are there and it's working so far pretty good. For the balancing, I don't really use physics as per balance the character, but if you go fast or you just like go out of the beam, you can fall. Finally, I started to dress the level, and as you can see here, I added some barrels, some tools, and stuff that you could probably find in a mine or in a workplace. On the other hand, you can see as well, I added some decals for dirt and to add more variety to the level, and some like little particles if I go close to the fire here. So you can see like dust and some like sparks that I think will help with the mood and yeah, the level design. My plan is to have a playable demo with all the main features by October. This demo will be available to everyone and will contain the first chapter of the game that will be approximately like 30 minutes. If you're interested, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media, where I post updates very often.
That worked.
As always, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.